Hey guys, today working on a Eaton Ultrashift 10-speed transmission. We actually just did it's a 2015 Freightliner Cascadia. We just swapped the motor and everything sounds good except it won't go into gear, and it throws a check transmission code SPN 522 FMI7. And come to find out what's gone on is when we took the motor out, we didn't cage the clutch. And so the tech, I called the tech from Freightliner, and he says to pull the transmission back out, pull the clutch out, and then you can reset it. There's a resetting procedure. And I got on YouTube, watched a guy that from California, fellow YouTuber, and he had the software and he was able to reset it while the clutch was still in the transmission like this. And I don't have the software, so I'm going to try to do it this way anyway. And what they say in the book is, get my screwdriver. Basically, you got 4 cage bolts. They're 7/16 coarse thread, so 7/16 by 14 by 1 3/4. And probably can't really see very well that hole right there. So there's 4 of those. You put the bolts in there and tighten that down, that clutch plate down, until you get an 1 5/8 gap. Oh no, it'd be 5/8 times 2. So you got 2 5-inch spacers go in here. You can't see that. They go in there. And basically then there's the reset little lever in there. You can't see it from this position either, but then you're supposed to be able to get in there and maybe reset that and try that. So that's what we're going to try. So I'm going to go ahead and get these bolts in here and see if I can't get something. But this is what we're working on today. I'm just spinning this around. Kind of hard to do this with one hand and film with the other, but spinning it around. So there's the other bolt hole. I'll put the one in. You can see a little tab. We're trying to push it up to the left. In order to get that up to the left, you've got to put these cage bolts in to relieve the pressure. So that's all we're trying to do, is get the bolts in, relieve the pressure, and then be able to push that tab up into that new position on the left, the top left. So what I did is I got one of these tools here, these electric ratchets, and I just put it up on there and I tightened that bolt as tight as I could get it, and you can see that gap in there just gaining a little bit every time. So I just basically put it in there as tight as I could get a running start with these, you know, and then just cinch it down as tight as it would go till it stopped. So I'm gonna rotate it now, and I got 2 in. I'm gonna rotate around and do the other 2. There's the tab. So when they say reset the clutch, you're taking this guy there and pushing it into that groove over there. So that's what we're trying to do. All right, so let me kind of show you what I've done. I put the shipping bolts in to cage it, and I tightened those all the way up. And then I took these spacers, I cut 2 blocks that were 1 1/4 inch. Actually, they're just maybe a 1/16 of an inch long, longer than 1 1/4. And I put one in the bottom, and then you can see I've got one in the top, and I just wedged those in there by hand. The one at the bottom, it went right in, and then I took the bolt out that was right below it, and then I had a little harder time getting the top one in, but I did get it in. I kind of got it wedged in there. And then what I did is I rotated the flywheel around again with that little flywheel cover off, and I took all those shipping bolts out. And then I rotated it around where you could see that new tab, and what I did is I just took a pry bar, actually, and a hammer. I took a pry bar like that, and I hit that, and it moved. And the book, it says that you need to come back to the side right up in there and pry that friction plate away to be able to get that to move. But there's really no way to get in there. I mean, you might be able to have a special tool, and it says, well, you might have to pry on all 4 sides, and I don't know how you're gonna get to that. So I just tried it like this, and I got the thing to move. And so I just lightly tapped on it and did get it back to the new position. And so now what it says you got to do now is hold that in the new position and then put the shipping bolts back in, and then you can pull those wedges out and then basically reinstall the clutch. This is the booklet that says how to do it outside the transmission. Then you reinstall the clutch and pull the shipping bolts out. So now I'm just wondering what to do. I've got it over there. What I'm thinking is maybe just try to pry those blocks out, and because I don't have the software. And there's you know, that YouTube video that Western Truck and Tractor Repair did, he was able to use the software to activate the clutch. And that would basically, what you do is just push that little tab over, and then you would release the clutch and it would hold everything in place. Well, I can't do that because I got these blocks in the way and I don't have the software. So now I got to figure out a way how I'm going to do that. If I'm going to try to pry those blocks out, or if I just put the shipping bolts back in. All right, so what I ended up doing is, since it's just me, I got a screwdriver pushing that tab in all the way, and then I got a pry bar, and I actually pried that open, did all that with one hand, reached up with the other hand, and I could grab that block and pull it right out. So now I'm just gonna flip it around and get the other block out. I might be able to just pull that out or pry it out from here. But that worked pretty slick. All right, so I just took my pry bar and I kind of pried up on that block that I had in there, and then I just spun that backwards, and it just kind of wanted to come out, and I kept working it, prying it, and I actually got it out in 3 pieces. You can see there's a little piece of wood still up there. I got to reach up and grab that, but I got it out, and you can see that it's still over in the new tab. So now I'm gonna turn this truck on, get that piece of wood out, turn this truck on, see what it does. Got up in here, you know, I disconnect the battery cables, try to clear the codes, got everything reset, put it in drive, and it wouldn't go. It kind of clunked. I could tell it wanted to go like the brakes were on. So anyway, I got 2 jacks and jacked the back end up and got back in here, and I just kind of turned it off, turned it on, let the transmission controller cycle through. You know, you can kind of hear it when you first turn the key on, and did that a couple times, you know, mess with it forward, reverse. Finally, after the 2nd or 3rd try, I put it in drive, and the wheels did start to move. And I put it in reverse and it wouldn't do anything. I put it in low, it wouldn't do anything, but I put it back in drive and it would go. And so anyway, I just kind of cycled the key a couple times, you know, turn it on and off, and put it in drive, reverse. Well, finally I just decided I couldn't really get it to go in reverse, but I could get it to go in drive. So I lowered it down and I just got in and decided I was going to drive it out, and it kind of shifted weird, like kind of clunky. But then it worked. Everything worked after that. Low, reverse, everything was normal. And so it took a little bit to get that to cycle through, if you will, but it ended up working. So anyway, hope you enjoy the video, and hopefully this fixes a problem. But definitely, before you pull the motor or the tranny, you need to cage that clutch. Get those bolts and go through the transmission access window. Otherwise, you'll have to do what we did, and we didn't have any software, so we did all this mechanical, but I understand it would be a little easier to do this with some software that you could open up the clutch down below. But anyway, that's what we did. Hopefully it saves somebody some headache here.